everybody. Today we are starting up with lesson number 3, metals and non-metals. In this chapter we will be studying about different physical and chemical properties of metals and non-metals, and we will also study about metalloids. First, you can see on the slide, this is the periodic table. Okay, in the periodic table, all the metals, metalloids and non-metals are placed. There are 22 non-metals are there, okay, and 7 metalloids are there, and remaining are the metals. Some examples of metals like sodium, potassium, calcium, non-metals like carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, phosphorus, metalloids like boron, silicon, germanium, arsenic, etc. We will study this periodic table in detail in the last chapter. So let's start up with this chapter. You know that elements are the pure substances. They cannot be further broken down. Okay. So based upon the physical and chemical properties, elements can be metals, non-metals and metalloids. Metalloids are the elements which show the property of both metals and non-metals. So first, in this video, we will be discussing about the physical properties of metals and non-metals. You have studied this in class 8th also, that metals, they are shiny in appearance, that is, they have luster. Then they are generally, the metals are solid at room temperature except mercury and gallium, which are in liquid state. They are good conductors of heat and electricity because they have free ions in them. Okay, and there is an exception, lead and mercury. They both are metals, but they are poor conductors of electricity. Silver is the best conductor, and next best conductor is copper. Then they can be bent. Metals can be bent without breaking. They can be hammered, they can be made into wires, and many more such properties we are going to study in this video. So let's start with the first one. All metals are shiny, they have got that luster in them. Okay, hardness. Most of the metals are hard except these metals like sodium and potassium. These metals are known as alkali metals. They are so soft that they can be easily cut by knife also. Malleability. Metals can be hammered into very thin sheets. Okay, in that gold and silver are the most malleable metals. Ductility. They can be drawn into thin wires. Platinum, gold, silver are most ductile metals, but they are expensive. Therefore, we use the next ductile metal, that is copper. Then conductivity. As the metals have free atoms in them, free electrons in them, therefore they are good conductors of heat and electricity. But there is an exception, that lead and mercury are the poor conductors of electricity. Sonority. Metals are sonorous, means when they are hammered, then they produce a ringing sound, and this property is known as sonority. So these are some of the properties of metals. Let's now compare them with some properties of the non-metals. Non-metals are generally dull, they don't have shine, they are poor conductors of heat and electricity, and they are brittle. Let's see here. Physical state. You have studied that all the metals are generally solid in state except mercury. But here, non-metals, they can occur in solid also, liquid also, and in gaseous form also. Solid metals like sulfur and phosphorus, liquid non-metal, bromine, gases are hydrogen and oxygen, and many more. Malleability and ductility. Non-metals are neither malleable nor ductile. If you try to make a wire out of them or thin sheet of them out of them, then they will get broken. Appearance. They are generally dull in appearance. They don't have that metallic luster. But graphite and iodine are the non-metals which have metallic luster. They are exception and they show this type of luster. Conductivity. Non-metals are non-conductors of heat and electricity, or you can say they are insulators. But graphite is a good conductor of electricity, and graphite is an allotrope of carbon. But then also it helps in conducting the electricity. So it is a exception for this. Density. Non-metals usually have low densities and they are brittle. But there is an exception that diamond, which is a form of carbon, it is the hardest natural substance that is known to us. So it is an exception. Being a non-metal, it is very dense in nature. Non-metals do not produce any sound, so therefore they are said to be non-sonorous. Okay, so based upon these physical properties, metals and non-metals can be differentiated. There are some of the properties in the slide. You can add a few more. Okay, like luster, they have luster. Metals, non-metals don't have luster except iodine and graphite. Generally, metals are hard except sodium and potassium. Non-metals are not hard except diamond. Malleability, highly malleable metals are there. Non-metals, they are non-malleable. Ductile, non-ductile. Conductivity, they are good conductors of heat and electricity. Okay, but exceptions are there. And in non-metals, they are bad conductors, but graphite is a good conductor. State also, they exist in solid state except mercury and gallium are in liquid state. And non-metals, they exist in solid, liquid and gaseous state. Density, they have high density except sodium and potassium, and non-metals have low density. You can add a few more points that metals, they have a high melting points, but gallium and cesium, they have very low melting points. They have such low melting points that if you hold them in your palm, then they will start to melt. So these are some of the exceptions. I hope the physical properties of metals and non-metals are clear to you. Please go through the video and try to make the notes. In the next video, we will be discussing about the chemical properties of metals. Thank you so much. Have a great day ahead.